The way I've been talking about this election, a lot of the stuff on my site has been dealing with primary polling and things like that, the minutia of the process. Fortunately for people who don't particularly like either the Democratic frontrunners, candidates, whatever you want to call them, they've been having their own internecine battles and are kind of tearing each other apart. So we're able to just kind of sit back and point and giggle, and that's worked pretty well as a way to just point out their own self-abnegation. Beyond that, I'm not, frankly, quite a big fan of the Republican candidate. So rather than spending a whole lot of time dealing with him, I've just pretty much said I don't trust John McCain, and I'm going to leave it at that. You know, people will query me on that, and I'm happy to answer, but it brings up another point that I should have made during the opening remarks, and that is you need to decide whether or not you want to have comments on your site. I don't know if either of the other two people here do. I have always had comments. It's great because you can forge a community, you get discussion going, and all that's fantastic. The downside is you'll get sucked into the comments, you'll be trolled, you'll end up, and trolling is when someone shows up, usually from a left-wing site, and just starts throwing invective at you. Some people are better at ignoring that than others, but you can get sucked into that vortex where you can spiral down into defending yourself. It just robs you of all your energy, and then it's, 4 months later you just want to walk away from your blog for periods of time. So decide whether or not you want comments.
My answer is very similar to Jeff's. At the national level, when you're talking about the presidential race, I spend 80% of my time beating up Hillary and Obama, 1% of my time being nice to John McCain, and 19% of my time being not nice to John McCain. I've had this sort of ongoing debate with myself on my website about whether or not I can support John McCain, and basically saying the only shred of a reason to support John McCain is the current situation in Iraq and with Islam in general. Beyond that, I have no use for the guy. I think, I'm a libertarian. I think he has as little respect for the Constitution as Hillary and Obama do. So I don't spend a lot of time on that. What I am doing, though, I'm trying to spend some more time, not as much as some other people in this room, but some amount of time on the Bob Schaefer race. I think that's very important. Marty told me that we now have a Republican running for the seat that Mark Udall is vacating up near where I live in the 2nd Congressional District. I don't think a Republican can win, but I may try to do something in that race. But in general, I think there are a lot of conservatives who feel the way we do about John McCain, and I wouldn't let that turn you off from writing about politics in general or trying to influence elections in general. Just go down to the next level. Go to the Senate race, go to the House race, go to state legislative races. I mean, that's very important in Colorado. The state legislatures are a really big deal. And it wouldn't be impossible for Republicans to take back at least the state Senate. And that's where I would put a lot of effort. And I wanted to respond to something that Jeff was responding to me on. I don't think, I agree with Jeff's overarching point that for him, and for me as well, that my ideology, I don't love that word, but my values, the things that I think are important, are more important to me than pushing a politician around. So I wouldn't sacrifice what I believe in for political influence, but I don't think that there has to be an inherent conflict in, saying, being better organized. I would not, as Jeff said, sell my soul, but I don't think it's necessary to go as far as the left has. I think it is possible for us to be more effective while still being true to what we believe in.
Anybody else? I think we have time for maybe one more. My name is Fred Holden, and I'm really pleased to be here, and thank you for your input. It seems to me on this particular question, there's another opportunity that's kind of silent, and I want to make it not silent, and that is somebody that I've grown to almost love and admire, Ron Paul. He has not dropped out of the race. But what I like is the Ron Paul revolution. I helped sponsor 2 Freedom Document seminars in January and February, and during one of them I put up a whole listing of Ron Paul information, and the people fought over it to see it, because he keeps telling the truth and they know it and they believe it. I think there's an opportunity here that is not being very well used. The media, of course, marginalized that man. They criticized him. They just put him out on the side as a maverick and a nut. But I had another person report last Monday, reading a book off of Amazon.com by him, saying if he wasn't one of the founding fathers, he should have been. And so I think there's an opportunity in blogging, if you want to hit the positive, just keep getting people to go back to Ron Paul. It's a Ron Paul revolution. And it's not about Ron Paul at all. It's about the man he is, the courage he has, a medical doctor giving birth to 4,000 babies, and yet he's probably one of the best libertarian economists around. And I think there's an opportunity there. And maybe you comment on that as you're thinking and what you're already doing. Thank you.
For me, I guess my answer to that, well, first let me note that I gave money to 2 presidential campaigns, Rudy Giuliani and Ron Paul. I love what Ron Paul has to say on domestic issues and his continued references to the Constitution and answers to questions. I think that's fantastic. I don't like Ron Paul's position on the war in the sense of let's pull everybody out now. I think there is a philosophical argument to discussion to be had about the war, should we or shouldn't we have. But now that we have, I don't love Ron Paul's position on that. I have talked about Ron Paul on my website, but getting back to the overall point of my original comments about effectiveness, I don't think there's any way that it was ever plausible for Ron Paul to win. And given that, I think that you can do a lot spreading these ideas, which I try to spread those kinds of ideas with or without the presence of Ron Paul, because I believe a lot of those same things. But at the end of the day, getting back to sort of my idea of effectiveness, even if I liked Ron Paul better than somebody else, let's say Rudy, I had to go with, well, what do I think can really make a difference? What point is there in spending a lot of time pumping up a guy who's just not going to win? So I spent a little bit of time on it, but then I'd rather stay with something where I think I can make more of a difference. Whereas, as Jeff said before, maybe he's a little bit less interested in sort of the difference-making aspect of it. So I'll hand that to you.
With respect to Ron Paul, I think Ross is exactly right. I think some of his domestic ideas and his fidelity to the Constitution are admirable. But as a classical liberal, which is basically nowadays called a libertarian, I cover those issues all the time when I attack nanny statists, and David Ursani will be here later and talk about that probably a bit more. But I think he was the wrong representative for that message, and I think a lot of that came out through his associations with Lew Rockwell and a lot of the stuff in his old newsletters, which I wish he had fessed up to. I think it really weakened his credibility, saying all this stuff is going out under my name for years and years, but I had no idea what was being said with my name attached to it. Right there, that's not the kind of guy who's not going to take responsibility that I can ever support for president. So that's why I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time speaking about Ron Paul personally. Now, his ideas, sure. I think his foreign policy ideas are woefully simplistic, but I do like his domestic stances.